All right, welcome. Great to have you guys back again. Last week we worked on Holes chapters 1 through 3. Hopefully, you guys are reading and understanding what's taking place. I was very happy with all the work that you guys did online, answering the questions. Try to use a different font when typing in the Google document for your answers, if you can remember to do so. And also, after I'm done giving feedback, please go back and look at the feedback I gave you because I want to make sure that if you guys are stuck and you're not totally understanding something, that you reach out to me so we can go over what you're not getting. There are a lot of flashbacks in this story, so it can get confusing. So with that being said, make sure you guys go back and look at the answers that in my comments that I made, just to make sure you're on the right page and you're not missing anything. So and you can then make corrections by emailing me and say, Mr. Curran, I didn't quite get this one. What's the answer to this one? We can talk you through it. All right. So we're going to continue on today with chapters 4 through 6. So I'm going to use a PowerPoint and we're going to go over some of the things that I want you guys to be looking for in Holes chapters 4 through 6 today. We're going to do some vocabulary. But before we start, I wanted you guys to think about chapters 1 through 3 before you start going back and reading. So I'm going to use my PowerPoint here, and we're going to click open. Okay, so just a quick review of chapters 1 through 3. There are two images on the screen right now. All right, hopefully they mean something to you. All right, so the first one is a little lizard, and I just want you to think about, why is this picture important in chapters 1 through 3? And the next one is a picture of a desert, an empty desert. And hopefully that means something to you about the story. Okay, so just think about it for a second and think about why these two images are important. All right, and hopefully you answered that the yellow spotted lizard is one of the creatures that are in Camp Green Lake, among many other type of creatures that can hurt you if you are there. But this one, the yellow spotted lizard, happens to be the most deadly of all the creatures that are at the camp. And this scene here on the next one with just the rocks in the desert, this is where the story takes place. This is what it would look like at Camp Green Lake. Okay, so just so give you guys an image of what it might look like there if you couldn't quite picture it in your head. All right, so we're going to move on to the next slide. All right, so I just want you guys to be aware, flashback is used a lot in Holes. We want to make sure that we are recognizing when the author stops and goes back in time, because if we don't, it's going to get confusing. So make sure that you guys are recognizing the flashbacks, because all of a sudden you're going to be reading and next thing you know, you're going to be back in time. And if you don't catch on, that's going to cause a real problem. All right, so it says right here, problems flashbacks can cause. If the reader does not recognize when a flashback occurs in the story, it will confuse the reader, making the story frustrating and difficult to follow. So here's just an example of what a flashback is. Say you're reading a story about a character who is about to go on a roller coaster with his friends, but all of a sudden he freaks out and he doesn't want to go. The author might then flash back to when he was a child riding his first roller coaster and he almost fell out of it. That would explain the fear that he's currently feeling. All right, but we wouldn't know that unless we had the flashback about what happened to him in the past. So I can't stress enough, it's going to be important for you guys to recognize the flashbacks, because there's a ton of them in this story. Okay, next slide. All right. Today, while you're reading chapters 4 through 6, you are going to be introduced to a lot of different characters. All right. You're going to meet a lot of different characters as Stanley goes to the Camp Green Lake detention facility. So it might be helpful for you guys to keep a little notepad near you and jot down the names of the characters and a little bit of information about them as you encounter them. That way, it doesn't get overwhelming and you're confused as the characters come in and out of the story. So I highly recommend that you keep some sticky notes by you, or a notebook, and just jot down the names and a little information about the characters as they are introduced to Stanley in the story. All right, some vocabulary for Joel's chapters 4 through 6. All right, one of the words you will encounter is barren, and that is when it refers to land, it is land that is too poor to produce much or any vegetation. It can't produce plants or trees. So this is kind of what the land would look like in when it's barren, okay? Much like the Camp Green Lake. Desolate. It's deserted of people and in a state of bleak and dismal emptiness. It's very kind of depressing area. So it's this land is where Camp Green Lake is. I believe they state it's like 100 miles either way, north, south, east, or west to anybody, any town. So it's very much out deserted of people. Okay, so desolate would be a word that you're going to have to know. All right. Juvenile, that is something or someone that is young or not an adult yet. All right, and Stanley Yelnats is going to a juvenile detention center. All right, that's for kids that did something wrong, young kids. So there won't be any adults there other than the people that are in charge of running the camp. But the prisoners there are considered juveniles because they're not adults. Another word is a spigot. All right, and it's a device for controlling the flow of a liquid in a faucet. So these are some of the words that you should know going forward through the story. And you're going to be told that the prisoners wear jumpsuits. All right, and this is an orange jumpsuit, and this is something that Stanley will be issued when he comes into the detention center. So if you can get that orange clothing in your mind as you're reading the story, that would be fantastic. And the last thing is compound. In this case, it has to do with buildings and housings at Camp Green Lake. Okay, so it's just a series of buildings and houses that are together and they make up a compound where people live. Okay, so with that being said, okay, today you guys are going to read chapters 4 through 6. Right. When you go on Google Classroom, there will be pages and sentences that tell you where to start and where to stop. Again, I apologize to you guys in advance because some of you might be reading some information again, some parts of the story again, and I'm really sorry about that. I messed up. I'll make sure I don't do that in the future. If you have any questions, please email me. All right, I'll be on the computer all day, making sure, looking at your work, and make sure you look at the videos and then do the work, complete sentences, make sure you're answering the whole question. And if you have any questions, like I said, please, after you're done reading chapters 4 through 6, please let me know and I'll try to help you out as best I can. Good luck, and I hope you enjoy the story. I really am. Take care.